Hey everybody, welcome to Fierce Fabulous Fridays. I don't know, we're up to like 15, 20 amazing content from amazing women in the industry. You can find all of the replays at girlswhoprint.net. I encourage you to go there, listen, learn, and share. Coming up October 22nd is Girls Who Print Day. We have a lovely, amazing conference, including our annual leadership panel. If you're watching this after October 22nd, I guarantee you there are replays to be found at girlswhoprint.net or on Print Media Center's YouTube channel. On Girls Who Print Day, every year, since 2014, we give out the Girly Award. And the first Girly Award that was ever presented to anybody for leadership and education and dedication to the pushing the industry forward was the woman who is presenting this webinar today, Pat McGrew, who I lovingly call Patricia, but most people know her as Pat McGrew. Pat, my origin story in the industry, it cannot be told without including Pat McGrew. I met her at an event, and the first event I ever attended, as a matter of fact, Explore International, and I don't know why she decided to take me under her wing, but she did. And from that day to this moment right now, it has been an experience. It's been a learning experience. It's been a growing experience. Pat McGrew's my frying pan to the head. So all of you who I'm the frying pan to your head, imagine the frying pan I get from Pat McGrew. So, part of the issues that the pandemic brings is that with people scrambling, and I use that word with respect, to keep their lights on, they are perhaps not looking in the best places for their business or not understanding how to maximize their new relationships or their new opportunities. And that is what Pat is going to speak about today, finding your way to profit by assessing and caressing your opportunities. Without further ado, thank you very much for agreeing to present again, and I turn this over to you, Pat McGrew.
You know, it's always fun, and I don't get here often enough. Back in February of this year, I lost my job. Happens to a lot of people. Company I was working for was financially constrained and decided that the best solution was to let go of all of their senior analysts. That meant that I hung my shingle out, and that's made Fridays really busy in my life for a whole lot of reasons. Who knew you could have marketing emergencies? And yet, I have clients who seem to have them, and that's okay, because that's how I'm making my money these days. When Deb and I were talking about how to position a Fierce Fabulous Fridays discussion about new things you could do or things you should be considering, my mind immediately turned to my friend Donald Osborne. And I have to tell you, I'm a car person. Deb knows this. Cars are a big part of my life. Racing's been part of my life. Rallycross has been part of my life. Just working on cars has been part of my life. And that means, of course, that Jay Leno's Garage on CNBC is part of my life. And one of the pieces of that TV show is a space they call Assess and Caress. And the reason I am drawn to that piece of the show is that Donald's job, he's also a contract opera singer in addition to other things he does, but he does car evaluations for high value cars. And his job is to look not just at the car as it sits, but to know the market. His job is to know which is more valuable, the 1962 Volkswagen camper or the 1942 Chevy coupe, right? And he approaches it, you know, he's looking at the market, he's looking at the data, he's looking at buying trends, he's looking at the condition of the car against the original specifications. And he's looking at the provenance of the car, who's owned it, who's taking care of it. Those are all the things we have to do. It's exactly the same process that I go through when I'm helping a customer triage a product. And that's true whether it's a product like a software product, some tool, or whether it's a piece of hardware that is intended to deliver wide format output or flat sheet output or continuous feed output. And it's true when I'm assessing clients' products that they're selling based on those technologies. So think about it. So we've got a really interesting group. So, and we know that those of you who are listening come with a bunch of diverse backgrounds, but let's talk about a couple of different areas. So say you're in wide format and signage, and you've been doing wide format and signage for a while, and you understand your equipment really well, and you understand your market really well. But this has been a tough year. 2020 just keeps on coming. Excuse me. And so you might find that your customers are either buying less or buying differently. They might be not buying, at all, because their businesses may be a little tougher. A lot of my friends who do wide format, who support trade shows, for example, are definitely finding their life is quite a bit different. And even those, no matter what business you support, my friends, our family owns some restaurants. In the past, we would have been buying window graphics. We're not buying those right now. We're just trying to keep the doors open. And that means the people that I was supporting with my dollars buying those graphics, I'm not buying from them, and I'm not the only one not buying from them. The friends of ours in the Restaurant Association are not buying those things right now. So when you start to look at all of that, you have to start to think about, what am I selling? And in wide format, the trick is to start looking at the places where people are open and where there is traffic, and trying to come up with bundles and packages that might be sellable to those companies. And you don't want to be selling at a loss, because you never want to start pricing your product at the bottom if you can avoid it. What you want to do is build compelling packages that will make someone, even in tough economic times, move forward. So hold that in the back of your head. Now, let's say instead of being in wide format, maybe you're part of an implant in a company, and the implant, it seems like the implants that I've talked to come in one of two flavors. They either have more business than they know what to do with because everything's been pulled inside, or their organizations are trying to figure out how to shut them down because they consider them to be an expense they don't want to maintain. Whatever state you're in, the trick is still to make sure that you're right sizing. It's really easy for implants to decide, we're just going to do everything and everything comes in-house. But if you're not really set up for that, you can actually be losing money on the work that you're producing. So everything that you produce, every SKU you produce, every job you produce, you need to be evaluating against whether you're at least breaking even on it or not. And that might be a different method of operating the shop than what has been around before. Let's say you're a commercial printer. Commercial printers are used to being jacks of all trades, right? They print everything. They are amazing professionals who understand so much about so many different kinds of jobs that come in. But in the brave new world, this might be the time to really assess what products are being offered, because it may be that you were maintaining some loss leaders in your catalog up until recently, but this might not be the time to be maintaining loss leaders in your catalog. This might be the time to seriously consider eliminating some of the work offerings that you do. We're going to talk about firing customers in a minute. All of the things that you do in commercial print, you need to to go and look at each one of the products and make sure you understand your current cost of goods sold against what you can sell and to whom and at what volumes. When you look, if you're in the direct mail space, you have those exact same considerations. The direct mailers I talk to all the time tell me that there's been some shifting in what people are buying. The people who used to do letter mail, a lot of those have moved to postcards. A lot of the people who were doing postcards have moved to larger size postcards because they think it's going to get them more visibility in the mail stream. And they're not wrong. There's evidence behind that. A lot of the people who've been doing, especially donor campaigns, they're finding that they have to do multiple touch points to get the same donation. That where they might be able, they used to send something out once a month. Some of them have moved to a 3-week cadence because they're finding that that's working for them better. And even though technically it's costing them more, they're actually getting the donations in. Whereas when they were on their monthly cadence, those donations had started to dry up. They were at the wrong point in the cycle in the household mail, so they weren't getting noticed. So assessing what you're selling is all about understanding the business that you have built, and the business that's accessible to you today, and understanding who those people are that you're talking to, and what those customers really bring to you in terms of revenue and profit. So there's a lot to consider. And that's why I love Donald Osborne, because when I'm watching Jay Leno's Garage and he's talking about the car that's sitting in front of him and how much it's appreciated or depreciated or who's buying it or who's not buying it, I'm like mentally inserting print jobs into that conversation. So
can I ask a question?
you can.
And while I do that, maybe you could turn off your email because we can hear it.
So that is Alexa.
Oh, shh, don't tell her.
I know.
Okay. All right. I have a question for you because I might have heard I either heard what you said incorrectly or I think you just gave me a genius idea, one or the other.
Okay.
So are you suggesting, or can I infer that if I'm a print shop and I need to get lean and mean, I start getting rid of, on my menu of options, of all the things that I cannot maximize my profits on, and then focus just on growing that type of business, prospecting in those types of applications, and not trying to be everything to everybody. If it's only about direct mail right now, then that's what I become a specialist at, and that's all I focus on. Is that what you said?
I'm absolutely saying that. What
I
happens
love this.
over time,
I love this idea. Yes.
What happens over time is the product catalog bloats.
Yeah. Right?
Because you're doing something for a customer, you have a great customer, and they come to you and say, could you do this other thing for me? And in normal times, you say yes and you find a way to do it. But these aren't normal times, because when you said yes and you found a way to do it, if you're only doing it for that one customer, your sunk costs on being able to do it are likely higher than the rest of your catalog.
Right.
This is the point to go back and look at what's in your catalog and figure out, for today, what does it really cost you to produce each type of thing that you're producing? And are you, and then ask the question, are you doing it as efficiently as you can? Because it's easy for workflows to get sloppy and bloated over time too. And if you're not making a profit on something, stop printing it, right? And remember that sometimes the original profit margin was based on the original cost of the substrates, the original cost of the inks, the original cost of equipment that might have been on the floor at the time you took that customer on. In the interim, I don't know anybody reducing their paper prices.
Right.
There are deals to be had, but paper keeps getting more expensive. The vinyl substrates, the film substrates, the polyesters, everything keeps getting more expensive. Ink and toner are not being given away. Most of the printing companies are on a razor blade model. So you can pick up that 15 grand wide format printer, but that ink is going to continue to cost you money. And you need to make sure that your margins have been are constantly being reevaluated in light of all that. So yeah, I'm exactly saying what you said, Deb. I'm saying it's time to go and look at your product catalog. And I'm making a big assumption. I'm making this big assumption that you have a product catalog, that you know what products you're selling, and it's not the salespeople who are determining what you are selling. And that's another big leap in a lot of companies. The process of building the company has revolved around the salespeople selling whatever they could. And that's great when you're trying to build the company and you've got economics that can support you to do that. Today, that's really a little bit hard to do. And it's getting harder and harder, right? Today, the question is, what are the right products for you to be selling into the market that you are serving where you can earn a reasonable margin? And a lot of it depends on the equipment that you have available to you. A lot of it also revolves around your understanding of what your equipment is capable of. And I find a lot of disconnect there. In a lot of the shops I do assessments in, I'll look at the products that they're selling, I'll look at the equipment that they have on the floor, and I'll ask simple questions like, well, you're doing this kind of work, but why aren't you doing this kind of work? Oh, well, we've never sold that kind of work. Okay, you have equipment capable of doing that kind of work. The people you're selling this work to might also be interested in this work. So maybe there's a conversation to be had. I know a wide format printer who does business cards on his wide format device. Now, that machine was not sold as a business card printer, but he looked at all the people he was doing trade floor signage for, and he said, hey guys, do you want business cards for the trade show, just for the trade show, maybe with the trade show logo on it to go along with these signs that I'm doing for you? And he built a whole new revenue stream out of doing something that his hardware vendor told him he shouldn't do, right? They're not always the best arbiters of what you can and can't do. If you look at the picture that I've got up, I drew some things from just stuff I know. So the top left one is an MGI Zebra. He was being offered as a print sample at a trade show. But the story they were telling to printers who came to that trade show was, hey, look, you might not want to buy my machine, but I know 20 people in your region who have these machines who'd be happy to do this work for you. So this is a great time to be thinking of partnerships, right? Not to extend what you can do, but make sure that every decision you make about offering any product, whether it's by yourself or with a partner, has a margin attached to it so that you can stay alive. Because when I talk to my friends who are analysts, my IDC friends, my Gartner friends, all of my key point friends, everybody, nobody thinks that life is going to magically get better January 1st. We're all hoping, but we think it's going to be a ramp, and we don't know whether it's going to be a steep ramp or a gentle ramp. Different pieces of the industry are going to come back at different rates. Some parts of the industry that have just been going gangbusters, meeting the requirements for, floor signage and social distancing signage, they're going to have to figure out what comes next, if they've ramped up for all that production. I think we might go from, 6 feet or 2 meters to 3 feet or 1 meter. That's a whole new cycle of things we can print. But, eventually we'll go back to, little or no social distancing. What are you going to be printing then? What is your equipment going to be doing then? If you have any label capability at all, you've probably found a way into labeling social distancing and labeling different types of products. This is a really great time to be trying to find new people who need labels. Labels are a fabulous product. It's hard for me to imagine too many situations in a label production environment where you might want to turn a product off. You want to be finding new people who need labels. If you don't have a web to print environment and you are printing labels, you should have a web to print environment. It's the biggest, it's like the worst kept secret in the industry. Everybody's heard of it, but only 32% of printers actually have them set up. And many of them who have them set up poorly. So, or they downloaded freeware. And with freeware, you get what you pay for. It's harder to set up really good quality customer experiences in web to print, but the label industry is ripe for web to print because there are so many. One of the things that's happened and it accelerated this year is so many new entrepreneurs coming into the market with bespoke products. So it's everything from bespoke beer, and wine and cheese. And a friend of mine up in Canada on the Vancouver side of things, he sells food products that use wine derivatives. So it's basically the dregs of the wine after it's been bottled. He found a way to capture that and turn it into a product, right? And he's selling it to foodies to put into their set. He needed labels.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things you're looking for. If you have book printing capability, remember that that's the same capability you need for catalogs, and catalogs are the comfort food of the retail industry right now. So even if you've never done catalogs before, you have the capability to do it. The trick is to reach out to all of those types of organizations that are currently doing direct mail and offering them also catalogs, right?
Can I ask you a question?
No.
And my apologies for interrupting.
You're fine.
Would you consider all the restaurants that had to make makeshift takeout situations, and they're kind of putting stickers on bags and stickers on food, like packaging, just to say this came from my restaurant? Would you consider that a label or a sticker?
For me, it's the technologies are a little bit different, and you can do it using traditional label technologies, and you can do it using traditional sticker technologies.
Okay.
It's possible to do it both ways. The product really doesn't necessarily care about the technology. Remember that anytime you're in the food industry, depending on where you are, the regulations may vary about food safe inks, even on the outside of a package. So you have to be very aware of what your rules and regs are. I don't think the health people are coming out right now looking at it, but they will eventually. And you want to make sure that you're in alignment with it. And you've got to remember, I think you and I don't have exactly the same ideas about what restaurants can and can't do. Living the dream of having 3 that are losing 50% month on month from where we were this time last year. If I'm doing any printing at all, I'm doing it on my Epson that's sitting right here. I can't, it's like I can't pay my guy to do my window graphics.
I completely respect what you're saying, and I absolutely, we have different experience. My experience with some places, I am still
some can do it.
Visiting, especially with the chains or the bigger restaurants.
Yeah.
They are putting outside stickers on the bags to
that's
seal
great,
them.
If you can get that relationship, go for it.
So right? I just wanted to kind of mention that, most of the time when I hear labels, I think of product labels, exactly what you were talking about. But
but it doesn't have to be.
That definition might have an opportunity right now to open up to include stickers. And then if it did, then that kind of might open up more prospecting ideas for people listening to this. And that's the only reason I mentioned it.
And don't just think about, restaurants in terms of stickers on a bag or sticker on a box or something. Think about all those people who are selling, who buy a bunch of stuff off of Alibaba and then sit in their garage and repackage it and sell it on Etsy or sell it on, any of the different eBay or wherever. A lot of those people are becoming more sophisticated, and they're open to the idea of having nicer looking packaging, nicer looking labels and stickers. that more represent the product that they're trying to sell. The trick is you got to get in front of them, and the way you get in front of them is with a web to print, outpost that you market to them.
Also, again, I understand it's not, you don't just walk up and, to a grocery store chain and say, hey, I can help you. But my grocery store happens to be Publix, and they're doing this Instacart thing where you can, and they are sealing the bags.
Everything
So
is sealed,
there is, I'm saying that there's another whole aspect
think about
of
the
it, of
independence,
this,
right?
this
If
just
you might not walk into
exactly.
Publix, but
it could be my fruit stand. Exactly.
I mean, around here, I've got my Latin markets, I've got my halal markets, I've got my Nigerian markets, I've got, I've got my Brazilian markets, and they're all, family-owned smaller operations, but most of that stuff is being bought for delivery by, Instacart or Uber Eats or somebody.
I mean, the pandemic has created like this new segment of, let's just say, sealed with a kiss, sealed for your protection,
absolutely,
along those lines. And it might, if you have a label making capability, don't just think of it as a label. Think of it as I know this is, FDA don't come after me, but like a safety device that no one else has been in this bag since it was sealed. And
and I mean, and that's a really viable thing. And that's true of almost any product these days, right? It doesn't matter what you buy, you want to know nobody's been in it. And that brings me to who you're selling to. In an awful lot of organizations that I walk into, they tell me, we don't bother doing any sales training because we just sell to procurement, and procurement, it's a price sale, and we don't have any opportunity to have any other conversation. And if that's the organization that you are part of, you're highly limited, because procurement is not going to want to listen to stories. They only want to listen to the fact, well, in fact, if you work on a contract basis, you're probably used to them saying every year, we need it 10% cheaper than it was last year, right? And so that's a really tough sell. It's equally hard to sell to executive management and marketing agencies because they're under a lot of the same constraints. The trick is to find a way to not only have a talk track that will work for procurement and management and agencies, but to make sure that you have an understanding of the market that their product is being sold into. You can be most effective selling if you understand where their product ultimately lands and how those people actually are looking at things. And there is a ton of free data that you can get your hands on. So I probably get 200 newsletters a week. And I promise you, I do not read every one of them, but I do skim them. And what I'm looking for are things that, what are people who are buying cars right now really looking for? Because I work with a client who does a lot of sales in the automotive industry. I look at what are insurance agents, independent agents, and the State Farm and the Allstate guys. What's their big pain point right now? Because I'm working with a client who sells claims adjustment software. If you're looking at even the things from Mintel, Mintel does an amazing amount of data, and they do have a free newsletter.
Hold on, that's Lily Harder from Compare Media, everybody. That's our favorite person in the world.
Yeah, and she's wonderful.
Who Pat is referencing here.
Yeah, but Mintel, I mean, I've been a Mintel groupie for, a really long time because they have a free newsletter. And so while, yes, they would love tens of thousands of dollars for like the deep data, they post a lot in the free newsletter. And so does Cantor Media, right? Cantor does a heck of a lot of free stuff. And a lot of them are targeted to different industry segments. And so with those kinds of things out there for free, if you know who your customers are selling to, you can probably find a free newsletter or two to understand what those pain points are and what they might be looking for. And that gives you permission to have a different kind of conversation, even if you have to start by having it with procurement or having it with with an intermediate agency. when you start to demonstrate that you understand who they're talking to, it's a different conversation than a price conversation. And the goal is always to get it out of being a price conversation. Now, if you're an implant and you're going, hey, you know, I just get what they feed me, you can also lift yourself a bit by making sure you understand who the users of the things that you're printing are and what their needs might be, because you might be able to help them understand that there's a different kind of format that might work for them more effectively. Maybe they've always done a trifold brochure and they just keep coming to you with this trifold brochure over and over and over again. And maybe you've learned that in the organization, maybe you're in education, an educational implant, and you've learned that actually there are a couple of other techniques that might work. It might work to send a postcard instead. You are equally able to give your clients ideas. Just because you're an implant does not make you hostage to the people bringing you the work. You can be a proactive partner. I used to work for Kodak years ago, and before I actually worked for them, I was very familiar with their implant because I worked for Pitney Bowes and we ran the implant for Kodak, which sounds kind of weird, but we did. And one of the things that I learned was that the Pitney Bowes team knew Kodak better than Kodak knew Kodak. They understood who they were trying to talk to, what they were trying to say. When they were making pitches to big brands, they knew exactly how to package it up because they did their research and kept current on how agencies were behaving, and they talked to people. So when I actually ended up working for Kodak and we were shooting work over to the implant, I would ask my colleagues in marketing, I said, well, have you actually talked to the guys over in the implant about what they can do? And they, you know, we haven't talked to them for a while. And we ended up setting up a whole new set of dialogues because our implant was our best partner. They were a way better partner than if we, honestly, you know, vendors always like to go to their customers to buy their print because, you know, it makes everybody feel good. But in this case, the implant actually was the best partner. And it's just something to think about in terms of one more weird way that you might be reconfiguring the things that you're doing. So I guess the moral to my story is that you may find that you need to fire some of your customers and eliminate some of the products from your catalog if you're really going to increase your profit margin and stay alive in the current era. And the idea of firing a customer also comes from my Kodak days. I worked for a gentleman called Jeff Hazlett, and if you can find him on LinkedIn, he is all over the place. He is now the proprietor of C-Suite TV, and Jeff was a printer. He began, he owned quick print shops. He grew into the president of the Business Marketing Association for years. He was our CMO when I was at Kodak. I was tickled when he came in because I'd known him for a long time. He's a big guy. He's like, you know, 6'5" plus 2-inch cowboy boot heels. He's a pretty amazing guy. But his first meeting with us at Kodak, he told us that we had to be prepared to fire some of our customers because some of our customers were costing us money. And sometimes you make a trade-off, you know, oh, that brand is so big, so if they're seen to be with us, it's going to be good for us. You know, we'll be able to use them for marketing, so we'll take a little bit of the loss. But he actually put up on a screen like 150 organizations that we were selling to, on which we were earning zero revenue. And most of them we'd never heard of. We weren't even sure how they became customers. And so one of the things this time is good to use, it's good for, is to go look at every one of the customers in your book of business and see who you're really making money on. And remember that your original profit margin estimates for those customers may have been based on different paper prices, different ink costs, different machine costs, different footprint costs if you're in rented space, and different labor costs, which, you know, change constantly and over time. Last assessment I did for a packaging company who is fairly well known, we looked very hard at what it was costing them to produce. They do a lot of custom corrugated boxes. And we looked at their real cost to produce all of that, not just the cost of the substrate, but the cost of the ink, the press, the people, everything, and realized that they had underestimated their costs by 50%. So think about what that does to the profit margin, right? Every time a new piece of equipment comes in, you got to go back and revisit your costs, your estimate. If you're using estimating and quoting programs, you got to make sure those are as up to date as your current costs are, because they get out of sync really, really fast. If you don't have a live link between them, if you don't have a live link between your inventory management and your business processes, they're hard to keep in check. So,
Pat, can
yeah.
I ask a question here, if you don't mind? And
Yeah,
by the way, if anyone else has questions, feel
I
Pat
don't
is
bite. I
Pat is
just
very
yell at
open
Deb.
to this. I'm just the only one who's chiming in here. How I find myself in this situation a lot of times that it might take me 4 hours a week for 3 weeks to convince somebody to spend
$1.50
money that now has completely cost me
evaporated.
money because of the time suck of trying to get them to sign a dotted line to begin with. How does that factor into assessing whether or not a customer is costing you money in time and literally humans as resources?
Most companies can't do it. Most companies can't account for that time. They have no way to. They sort of account for sales as this sort of sunk cost, and they don't even use that to evaluate the profit margin of a job that they sell. And it's wrong. I mean, in most businesses that are operated, you would never operate that way, right? We would never operate one of the restaurants that way, right? For the restaurants, we have to know the cost of everything, every ingredient for every dish that's on the menu. We know the cost of our wait staff. We know the costs of our cooks. I know what the lease is costing me. I know what the new equipment that I put into the kitchen last summer is costing me. That was really well timed. If a TV burns out or a sports bar, I know the cost of my TV. So I know all that stuff. So we know down to the penny, what the expected profit margin is on every meal we make and everything that we sell. When I have that conversation with printers, they rarely know what the people cost of getting a deal in is. My advice to you, Deborah, is that if it takes you more than 3 calls, it's time to stop and walk away and make them come to you. And if they don't come to you, at least you didn't lose the money. There is a finite point in time where you have to let it go. And if they then realize they missed the opportunity, next time you approach them, you can set the ground rules for what the arrangement is going to be like. My favorite words in the world are crawl, walk, run. And Deborah is laughing because she has heard me use this for a decade, and I'm not going to stop now. And the reason I approach most things this way is because it's almost impossible to know everything I'm telling you you should know out of the gate, unless you already have it all documented. If you're starting the process of understanding what all your costs really are for the products that you're involved in, it's going to be incremental, right? The first thing you have to do is understand all the things that go into the recipe for the work that you deliver. The next thing you have to do is identify the costs for all those ingredients that go into the recipe. And then you're going to have to understand all the combinations and how they go together. That might take work on the part of several people. It may take help from the accounting team. Vendors might need to get involved to help you understand. The good news is most of the vendors actually have spreadsheets they can hand you that will help you understand your real cost to do any given job. It's true in wide format. It's true in the continuous feed and sheet fed space. They all have them. They just don't give them to you unless you ask, right? And if you do ask, it can help you have a more intelligent conversation with the sales management and with the accounting management. so that everybody can be on the same page, because you're always going to want to offer discounts, but you got to make sure that you're not offering discounts that are going to bankrupt you, right? And the same goes, Deb, with your example. You've got to make sure that if you're chasing a job, that you're not chasing it so hard that you've already lost money when you get it, right? There's a point where you have to know the cost of the chase, right? So if a salesperson, they make a pitch and they go after someone and they say, get back to me next week. Somebody has to know what that cost of that week delay is, and for that secondary touch point. And very few shops know the cost of every touch point with a customer, but it's almost one of the most effective ways to know whether you're actually making money on a relationship with a customer or not. Everybody knows who their painful customers are.
Yeah. I mean, they probably, assess it by, well, I pay this person a salary or they get a commission and now they're on their own time. But it's what they're not doing.
Exactly. It's the opportunity cost, right?
Exactly.
It's all the stuff you learn in MBA school, right?
That's how I think of it. I'm talking about with people for a ridiculously small amount of money, when I could be talking to multiple people about a ridiculously small amount of money and actually make money versus only be able to have the literal time because the clock has run out. I only got to talk to 5 people because they sucked my time to death.
And that's exactly it. So if I leave you with one word of advice, it's 3 words. It's crawl, walk, run. Do what you can do fast. Identify the things you can identify fast. And make some quick decisions about whether you're losing money on some of the work you're doing or not. The next step, the walking step, is to actually start gathering information to help you make better decisions about the stuff you're going to sell. And you get to run at the point where you can identify the true cost of every piece of work that goes through your shop. A friend of mine calls that flying. And I get it. But I think if I leave you with nothing else, those are the 3 most important things. And that is everything that I had to share this morning. And I would be remiss, of course, if I didn't do my commercial.
Yes, you would be very remiss.
Pat McGrew does do this for a living, and I do workshops and seminars and all sorts of sort of sales-oriented, but also business process-oriented consulting, workflow consulting, new machine acquisition consulting. And since I'm on my own, I'm always looking for new customers, right? I did recently also, just to understand what was being said in the marketplace, I went and finished out the IDEA Alliance CMP certifications for CMP fundamentals and for digital printing, as well as their brand quality certification. And I did it not because I didn't know it, but because I wanted to hear how they were telling printers to look at color and look at brand quality. And it was an eye-opening experience.
Thank you, Pat McGrew, so much for sharing your thought leadership and your time with us. Does anyone have questions before I ask all of mine that I've been taking notes of? Davina, any questions? Jan? No?
My email is there on the slide, right? PCM at McGrewGroup, McGrewGroupProjects@gmail.com. Both of those work. I set up the second one because some enterprise servers have trouble talking to my server for some reason. We don't know why. So I'm on LinkedIn. You can always find me, with a message on LinkedIn. I am the easiest person on earth to find. Put my name into a search engine, you'll find me.
Pat,
I'm happy to answer questions.
Can I ask you a question? Okay. Okay. So a lot of what we're talking about now, where we're let's say trimming the weeds of services and things like that, is a little anti my one-stop print shop kind of reality, in which if I'm a print customer, I want one PO to rule them all. I don't want to, especially now, I really don't want to try to have multiple things with multiple vendors, especially being remote. It's hard to manage it that way. It just becomes a bigger thing now that the people are not in an office. So, but I do agree with you that there are some things printers can take off their menus if, to your point, they can find partners to replace that, and somehow they can still make a margin off of it. Now, I know somebody who is very focused on selling print online. They have equipment, they have several print shops, and they do a lot of work in-house. Sometimes they farm the work out anyhow to a trade printer, because at that particular moment in time, it is not worth it to them to put that job on their press and not put something else on. So I think it's a very interesting situation that you have just opened up. It also could potentially help printers, all the manufacturers, put your earmuffs on, not reinvest in equipment or
absolutely.
that and give it back, and say, we've had a lovely time together, but this I can't make these payments
I
now.
need to make sure my business survives.
Yeah,
your
it
business
opens
is up
up this opens up a whole new concept to the value of what a one-stop print shop can be, and it does not have to be on your floor. Comments, thoughts?
Think about it in terms of the model that alliance brands, alliance franchise brands, or franchise services, or some of the big franchising groups use. The whole story behind a quick print franchise is that you're as big as the whole group, right? You're not just confined to what you have in your shop. You have access to all these people who have all this other kinds of equipment. You think about the Office Depot model or the Staples model, where
FedEx Office, they don't have all the stuff there.
FedEx Office, right? It's the same thing. They actually have several centralized facilities that they have sort of high-end equipment in, but the work comes in through all these outposts all over the place. Well, it doesn't have to be FedEx Office and Staples and Office Depot and Alliance and FSI. It can be you and 5 guys that you know from the local print association or the regional print association who have capabilities you don't have, and you start cross-selling what the other ones can do, right? The guys that we use, that we have used for years, are actually an Alpha Graphics franchise that are over on the other side of town from us. And Jonathan actually found them, my son found them when he was working for another software vendor and he needed trade stuff printed. And these guys came highly recommended, and they printed everything he ever needed and shipped it wherever he needed it shipped. Well, he left that company and he went to another company, and he dragged that relationship along with him. So now they're printing for both of them. But then they're printing our stuff too. And he doesn't have all the equipment we might like him to have, but he knows people who do. Right. And he gets that work and he treats it as though he was doing it in his shop. So the trick is not only to find partners, but to remember that you still own the customer. Mm-hmm. and not to lose that customer experience piece.
I love that. And also, I was speaking to a printer out of Long Island, as a matter of fact, who contacted me because after Elevate Print Conference, he got inspired to, do something for his community. And one of the things that he wanted to do was partner with other print shops in more diverse neighborhoods. And if he didn't have those capabilities, then he would partner with them as right. being his printer. And I thought that was fantastic. Yeah. And then he expanded that idea to, well, why can't I create my own little consortium? To exactly what you said.
You can.
And they sold a bunch of equipment off because they didn't need the redundancy. Right. They made a website, or they're in the process of making a website. This is what I was talking to them about, where an order could come in, and of course, with some intelligence put behind it, it would know who to farm it to, and they would work out when it was something that they could all do. You know, maybe it was whoever's next or whoever's closest,
Yeah.
whatever they decided to work out.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, we talk about the future of print a lot, and we talk about the future of print in applications and equipment, but we don't really talk about the future of the print shop, which really is morphing right now.
It is into specialization and niches because of partnerships. I think it's easier for a company to make a decision to specialize and partner than it is to buy a whole lot of equipment, right? I mean, the capital investment in buying equipment that you're not currently familiar with and you don't currently have a market for, and the hope that you can expand your business. I don't know, I'm thinking in October of 2020, that might be a little optimistic. But saying, you know, being able to build a catalog that promotes the ability to do cold foil and the ability to do, you know, spot varnish and the ability to do holograms and the ability to print on, you know, weird, wonderful substrates and do specialized folding carton and labels and boxes, even though you don't have that equipment in your shop, that makes you, you know, it essentially, there's a phrase that I've always tried to stay away from, print broker. And print brokers, I mean, it has a terrible connotation, and I understand why. But if you think about it, you effectively create a print broker kind of infrastructure or managed print services kind of infrastructure when you build these partnership consortiums. And if you just, you know, take the bad connotation off of it, you have the ability to bring it in, take your cut, and have a partner do the work, and they make some money too, and everybody wins.
Also, going back to something that Francois Martin said a while ago, and I told him he was insane. Look, it took a pandemic to bring me around to his thinking, which is that this consortium selling off redundant equipment can collectively invest in something that the market does not have. Laser cutting,
motion cutters, laser cutters, specialized varnishes, Scodex, yes, MGI, like, all that
the
stuff.
things, the 3D printers to make prototypes. If you have, you know, clients or potential clients that can do the stuff. I mean, even just to invest in, you know, Jamie the printer loves this damn robot thing that puts boards on wide formats.
I'm in love with that robot thing too.
And he says that with that, you can increase your productivity so much that people can't compete with you in speed, if nothing else. And imagine, you know, like 5 printers chipping in for a robot for the wide format thing that they're already sharing. So it's very interesting. Of course, there's probably a lot of lawyers and a lot of trust that has to be involved. But, you know, when the times get tough, the tough get going, right? Is that the expression?
That is the expression.
Hi, Emily. Do you have any questions, comments, anything? Does anybody? Nobody?
We've all just been having fun here. So, and for those of you who don't know, Francois Martin used to be the head of marketing for the graphic arts division of HP. I worked for him for 6 years, and
I literally laughed in his face when he said that.
Yeah.
Like, good luck with that one, Francois.
And then he's currently at Durst and is building a whole new Bobst. He's at Bobst. Sorry, he's done work for. He's at Bobst. What he's building is a whole new approach to printing boxes. Customized boxes, which is and display stuff and packaging and stuff. So he's always a forward thinker.
Yeah, I mean, it was a Hail Mary when he first suggested it, you know.
And
back then it was like, okay, no one's buying presses. Let's try to get 5 people to buy 1 press, and it was like, what? Who in God's name is going to do that?
He saw the market, and he saw where
now
it was going.
It's like,
that's
actually kind of a good idea if you can work it out with your neighborhood friends. So, okay, I want to be mindful of everybody's time. I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. Please, all of the reprints are at Girls Who Print reprints. Where is my head? Replays are at girlswhoprint.net. Share them through your social channels, watch them. Also, October 22nd is Girls Who Print Day. We have a conference coming up. Please register for that. And if you're watching this after October 22nd, I guarantee you there are replays of our conference sessions at girlswhoprint.net or the Print Media Center YouTube channel. So until next time, everybody, empower long and prosper, print long and prosper, and thank you so much, Pat McGrew.
You bet. Everybody have a fabulous weekend.
Bye.